What's going on, everyone? Talen here, and welcome to another Marvel Future Fight video. Alright, so we are still on the APK here, so with that comes the standard disclaimer. This video is brought to you by Netmarble and the Content Creator Club. Everything you see here is still subject to change from now until the live version. So, in this video here, we're going to be taking a look at Valkyrie with her new uniform. We have the Fearless Defenders. She is also going to be one of the two characters that is going to be getting an awakening with this update here. The other character getting an awakening is just Heimdall here, but Heimdall is not getting a uniform, so it's not really much to look at here. He's got similar awakening skill to Valkyrie. You get minus 65% all defense down, so if he does ever get a uniform, he should hopefully do really well with this awakening skill here. But right now, he's kind of getting left in the dust, which is similar to Elsa and Silk, which I'm a little disappointed in because I wanted to use both Elsa and Silk. So when I saw that they were getting an awakening, I was like, oh, cool, maybe I can actually use them. But then they didn't get a uniform, so that kind of derailed things there. Sure, you can use the awakening skill, but without the uniform to kind of bump up your stats or just rework the character a little bit, you're still not even doing super well with the awakening skill. So yeah, I kind of hope that Heimdall gets a uniform. I hope that Silk and Elsa get a uniform as well, because I really am not going to be happy if they're just giving characters awakenings and then just leaving them like that with no uniform to just kind of, you know, update the character's power level a little bit by giving them an awakening skill. Like, hey, look, they have an awakening skill, so they can, you know, kind of compete a little bit in the content now. But yeah. Anyway, just a little side rant there that I'm a little annoyed that they're giving characters awakening skills and not giving them a uniform or reworking their base kit in any way. So let's take a look at Valkyrie here, because she did get a uniform. So we have the Fearless Defenders, which I've already said. So the uniform is going to change the effects of her leadership, and then it's going to, not her leadership, the leader of the Valkyrie, which is her her 4-star passive, and then enhance the skills of the Shield Maiden of Asgard, which is her tier 2 passive. So her passives are getting an update there, and then uniform is also going to give her increased skill damage by 25% and bonus damage by 25%, because she does not have that on her tier 2 passives, so we can get it here from her uniform. So that'll help out with her damage. Get 6 skill changes, which is really nice, and yeah, let's just get into it. So the tier 2 passive is now going to bump up a little bit in her support here, which is pretty nice. So we're going to now have ignore dodge, which that is brand new. She didn't have any ignore dodge before. Then it's going to be 30%, which is fantastic. And then the increased damage dealt to supervillains is going to bump up by 5%. It was 45% before, now it is 50%. And then we're going to get a bump up in the decreased damage received from supervillains up to 25% now, which I think it was just 15% before, so I think this is a 10% buff, or maybe it was 20%. Either way, we're getting an increase there for all of the stats on her tier 2 passive. Her 4-star passive, which is pretty interesting here. They've done this with a few other characters where they have to use a specific skill with a effect on it to gain the buff. So in Valkyrie's case here, it's whenever she uses a bleed skill, and I really like it when they do it this way, opposed to the way that they did with Dr. Voodoo, where he has to actually apply the debuff to the enemy. So for Dr. Voodoo, it's whenever an enemy is debuffed with poison, or whenever an enemy is poisoned, then his passive will activate. Whereas Valkyrie here, it's whenever she uses a skill that can apply bleed. It doesn't need to apply the bleed, but if it says it will bleed the target, then she gets the buff here. And the buff is going to be a 15% heal and increase chain hit damage by 15%. That's going to be 10 seconds for the chain hit, and it's going to be on an 8-second cooldown. So every 8 seconds, you're going to get a nice heal, and also you're going to have that chain hit damage up indefinitely, which is pretty nice, because I believe her 4th skill is the one, or is one of the skills that has bleed on it, and you're going to be using that skill in her rotation. The second skill here, okay, so second skill is bleed. Maybe all of her skills do. I didn't look at them too closely before starting up the video here. Yeah, so the second skill has some bleed on it, bleed, silent, stun. Third skill here is going to be the one that's going to give her quite a few buffs, and also it will ignore targeting, so very similar to Silver Surfer's third skill. This one is a counterattack skill, and it will target enemies that have ignore, or enemies that are in iframe, so it'll pop them out of that. It has paralysis just like Silver Surfer, so I'm getting a vibe that this third skill is going to be pretty powerful in PvP, and it's also on an 8-second cooldown, so nothing too crazy there for the cooldown, which is nice. and it's going to apply all defense down, minus 50%. You get a guard hit, you get some accumulation there, which is damage dealt. It goes up to a 100% attack buff, so that's fantastic. And I'm pretty sure she goes into an iframe as well when using this skill, so it should be nice to probably one-shot characters in PvP. I don't know if she'll be widely used in PvP because I don't think her other skills really hint towards her being a super strong PvP character. I think it's mainly just this skill here, but if you want to use her for her support, so if you're fighting a full team of supervillains, you could just pop over to your team that maybe has Valkyrie in it, and then you can get the ignore dodge, and then, you know, all the other benefits when fighting super villains. Actually, the ignore dodge will work just flat out on anyone, so I guess you can do ignore dodge if you're fighting a dodge heavy hero team as well. The fourth skill here, the fourth skill has bleed, which is good, so that'll trigger her 4-star passive. We have a stun there, and then also some more all defense down, except it stacks up to minus 60% for the fourth skill, which is really nice because that's getting really close to that premium effect. Minus 65% is what allows characters to do the super high stages of World Boss Ultimate, but with minus 60 here and a debuff lead, she should still do some pretty impressive work in World Boss Ultimate. At least that's what I'm thinking from what I'm seeing here from her. I would like to be able to use or combine a few more skills together, because right now you're pretty much just proccing on one skill and you don't really have much extra effects you can add on to that, but we'll show that off in the skill preview in a second here. And then the fifth skill still has the summons, and we have an all attack all defense boost by 40% and just 1% all speed there. So yeah, let's hop into the skill preview and we'll go ahead and take a look at these skills in action. So the first skill, she just kind of spins around a little bit with her swords there. It is an iframe at the start, so you can use this if you get into trouble, and then she will teleport behind or phase through the enemy there, so you'll be behind the boss after you do the skill, which will be really nice. You can just get out the way of an attack or something like that. The second skill here, she throws her sword and then just does a kind of spin around there with her spear and just hits the enemy. You can cancel that after you throw the sword if you want to just have that sword do a little bit of extra damage. The third skill is the one with the counterattack. So if you don't counterattack, she just kind of holds her sword there and then she dashes through a few times. And I think she still does that same dash even when she counterattacks. I don't think it adds anything. Yeah, it doesn't add anything to the animation, doesn't increase the amount of hits. It just makes you do the attack quicker. So yeah. And then the fourth skill, which is the one you're going to be proccing on if you're going to be using her in World Boss Ultimate, is right here. Skill is pretty nice. You do get damage immunity with it, but it's not invincibility. So I actually think that Valkyrie can take advantage of a guard break obelisk. So I think she would benefit quite a bit from a guard break obelisk. She seems damage proc friendly, so you can just do a guard break immunity damage proc obelisk. I'm probably going to throw a CTP of destruction on her. Actually, maybe I won't, because I think I have a CTP of insight on her right now. I don't really want to delete that CTP of insight. But I have a lot of CTPs of destruction laying around, so I was kind of looking for a character to put it on, and I think she'd be a good candidate for it. I'll have to double check what I actually have on her in my live account. But anyway, move on to the fifth skill, and this is pretty much the same fifth skill as before. She summons into Pegasus here with the other Valkyries to help her out, so yeah, same thing there. But one thing to note is the buff that is attached to the fifth skill here, that 40% attack and defense buff, doesn't happen until after the Valkyries are summoned. So that's what's really annoying. So you can't just like cancel the fifth skill for the buff and then go into the fourth skill for the proc. You have to actually play out the fifth skill. So if we go here, you get the buff right now. So yeah, that took quite a while. You can see the buffs up here on the top corner. So we have the summons, and then we have the attack stat buff. So if you pay attention there, we don't get it until right there when the Pegasus are kind of swooping down from the sky, which is kind of annoying because you do have some hits here. As you can see, we are doing a few hits on the enemies, so it's not really going to be something you can just stall out for, because it'll probably trigger your obelisk, knowing my luck at least in this game with proccing the obelisk when you don't want to. So yeah, the rotation that I think I'm just going to use for her is just 3 into 4 like that. And then we're just going to proc on a 4 here. So not too many chain hits to take advantage of. There's still quite a few hits, but I don't think I would recommend a CTP of energy on her. And also keep in mind, this is just damage immunity, so she can be guard broken out of this skill very easily because it's not an iframe. And then for her awakening skill, pretty much the same thing. I'm thinking just 3 into awakening skill. If we go here, we summon in Sif and Heimdall, and then they just kind of create like a vortex around the enemies here, which is really cool. I like this awakening skill. It's a really cool looking animation. And you can cancel it once they start doing the kind of slashes on the screen there. So if we go over here, do 3, whoops, not 5, go into here and you can cancel right now. Oh, no, I did it a tiny bit too early. They were getting ready to dash away. So let's try this again here. Right. Okay, I'm hitting it a little too soon. All right, one more try here. Come on. And there we go. Now we can cancel it out. I mean, you could wait longer, of course, but as you can see, you still get those effects there. So once they start dashing away and swipe or dashing around the enemy, you can cancel into another skill if you so please. So if you have like a CTV of energy on her, you can do that to cancel into another skill. But I'd recommend just letting the skill play out because it is an iframe, so you're not going to get guard broken or anything like that. You can take advantage of the damage. As long as you don't have some of your Pegasus or the other Valkyries out, because then the boss will target that and they'll probably get out of that lovely little circle that you're making there, which is going to be the damage zone, because if they get outside of that circle, then they're not going to be taking any hits or any damage. So that's one of the things that could be a little annoying, particularly about the summons here. So they will, of course, pull the aggro when you're in the iframe. But overall, I'm liking the look of Valkyrie here. She seems like she's been updated to be a pretty decent damage dealer now, so I'm thinking that she can do well on her own. But the main use that I see for her is now that she has her awakening and you can transcend her potential, you can use her in Null. Yeah, so she's going to be a good support character for Null. So now you can use her with her for her increased damage against supervillains and that ignore dodge to help you out in Null to get another clear if you have a team that's just a little bit shy on damage. Then of course that 45% will help you get there. So then you can have another support character for Null, because as of right now the only other 45% that we have is going to be Mystique, or is she just, no, she's only 40% against supervillains, isn't she, and 45% against superheroes. And then next up is going to be Medusa, but her 45% is only for Inhumans, so we need another Inhuman to be able to take advantage of that. I guess the last thing to do is let's just take a look at Valkyrie in combat here. So let's move her over to some World Boss Ultimate and just see how she can perform in terms of survivability and also a little bit of the damage as well. But keep in mind with the APK here, the damage is not going to be a good representation of what you will see on your live account. Right now, I was just trying her out with Guard Break immunity, and this is just an invincibility obelisk. I couldn't find a Guard Break with a damage proc, so that's just what I have here. But when I had a damage proc on her, she was doing really well. I tried her out with a CTP of energy, but she just kept getting guard broken too much. So that's why I decided to try this one out to see if that would fix the issue. And it did fix the issue. So guard break immunity does seem like a good option for her. So now let's go ahead and hop into the fight. Realized that I forgot to go over Valkyrie's uniform options here. So I'm just going to insert this clip into the video here. So the first option is going to be Medusa with her Inhumans versus X-Men uniform. Then we have She-Hulk, She-Hulk's Avengers, Jean Grey, Marvel Girl, Thor, Endgame, or Fat Thor, whichever one you want to call him. And then we have White Fox Lifestyle Series 1 uniform. So the first uniform for White Fox. So those are going to be the options. And yeah, let's get back to the video. Alright, so here we are at stage 29 for Proxima. We're just going to go with this team here just because it was the easier characters for me to grab. We have Crescent here for a 60% physical attack, and then we have Ghost Panther for his tier 2 support. So we have double support here, and then also leadership. So she's one of those characters that can have kind of triple support going on because of lead and 2 buffs going on here. Let's load up here and see what we can do with the Valkyrie. So pop her over, and this is just stage 29, but remember on the APK here we don't really have any raid, so our raid level is really low. I keep wanting to get that buff from the 5th skill. Well, I can do that now actually, since I'm not trying to actually line up a damage proc. But first, well, let's just get this awakening skill going, see what kind of damage you can do here. See, this is really nice damage, like without a damage proc. So this is no damage proc. And if you saw my other video with Loki and Thor, Well, Thor was doing really good, but her damage right here with just a invincibility obelisk seems to be very similar to Loki's damage when Loki had a CTP of energy. So I'm thinking Valkyrie could do some pretty crazy damage, at least her awakening skill. Because as you can see, the other skills, not so much. So let's get that attack buff going on here. Oh, we got canceled out there because of that micro iframe from Proxima. Again, I'm not saying this is the right skill rotation. This is just one that I'm trying out because you could probably do that to get a little more damage to the second skill. Yeah, it's pretty much just the awakening skill right now that's doing most of my damage for me. So let's, oh yeah, now we'll see here. Proxima's going to jump out of here because of the Pegasus. Yep. Oh, we're still just barreling. Oh, never mind. And we lost her. But yeah, you can see that Valkyrie here is going to have some pretty nice damage with that awakening skill. I see some really good one-shot potential for some World Boss Ultimate fights just because that damage looks to be pretty nice. Besides that, her other skills, if you have a damage proc, should do better than what they're showing here. But yeah, overall, I'm happy with the uniform. I'm excited to try it out on my own account. I'm probably going to be getting her Awakened and Transcended just for the fact that she's going to be a support for Null, and I can use all the support characters I can get, but she also just looks like a good standalone character. So let me know your thoughts on Valkyrie here. Do you think she looks good as a standalone character? Are you just going to assign her to only a support role, or are you going to try to change up her build a little bit to see what kind of damage she can put out? Let me know in the comments below, but that's going to be it for this video here. Hopefully you enjoyed, and of course I will catch you in the next one.